What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Turn the Jets Live. I'm your host, Steven Zantz, joined by my co-host, Steven Russo. Russo, just when I'm out, they always manage to pull me back in. How you feeling, my guy?
I'm all right. As you and I were just talking about how last night went, we were down bad. I think both of us were. I was up till 2, 3 in the morning just stewing because it was that bad. And they find a way to do it every time to you. And man, it's I thought last year was the worst that I could endure. And man, we are 6 games in, and I think they're giving it a run for their money. So. But no, I mean, listen, last night was rough. I think the Davante trade is something that we all expected and wanted and really needed to happen. So obviously good news following a tough loss here on a Tuesday morning, but I'm hanging in there as best as I can. How you doing, brother? How's everything going?
As I just told you right before we went live, I am literally they do it. They suck me back in. I was so down bad all last night. I was so and then I see Davante and Aaron together literally on Pat McAfee right before we went live, and I'm like, they do it again. They literally do it every single time. It's truly unbelievable. I mean, there's still a lot of things we got to talk about, but listen, Davante's here. We've been talking about this since the last trade deadline a year ago. It's awesome. They gave up nothing. It's a third-round pick. Joe Douglas would probably mess it up anyways, so I'm happy. How you feeling about the trade?
Yeah, I mean, their third-round picks can't even make the active roster. So at this point, like, what does it really matter, and what are we talking about? And
exactly.
we at some point we had to get to here where, listen, Joe Douglas has to realize this roster, this cap, these picks aren't going to be his to manage if he doesn't right the ship and get things going in the right direction. So this trade was something that needed to happen. I think, I'm seeing a lot of stuff on Twitter about, Dan Graziano. Oh, this is only to make Aaron Rodgers happy. Well, objectively speaking, wouldn't getting an all-pro wide receiver, a 6-time Pro Bowler, I think, make any quarterback happy? So, this isn't just to make Aaron Rodgers happy. This is to make the team better. On a grander, larger scale, yes, the Jets have issues. Yes, they still have discipline issues. Yes, they struggle to stop the run. Yes, they have penalty issues. And Tyron Smith does not look like the Tyron Smith of old. But at what point do we sit here and say, Davante Adams is not needed to make all those things better, but the Jets are a better team now with Davante Adams than they were yesterday? It's that simple. He's an all-pro wide receiver. He's Aaron Rodgers' favorite target, arguably of all time. He has clearly a connection. He's going to make Garrett Wilson better. I think Will Parkinson did a great job when him and Joe were together last week. I forget, it was either Badlands or the TOJ pod. Either way, they all mixed together at this point. But pretty much saying that Davante Adams is going to kind of take over that Garrett intermediate route role so that Garrett Wilson can open up things, further downfield and kind of get him those looks. I mean, taking the attention off of Garrett and having another receiver of that caliber makes the Jets a better offense, a better team. There's no way that it doesn't. So you don't get Davante Adams to correct your penalty issues or make your run defense better. You get Davante Adams because he's an all-pro wide receiver that has done it for years, that instantly makes your offense better and makes your team better. That's it. It's the same thing that we talked about last week after they fired Saleh. Those things are mutually exclusive. You don't do one thing because it corrects all things, but if you have to take care of it, then you take care of it. And so that's I'm just a little tired of that discourse. Right now, the Jets are a better team with Davante Adams than they were last night. Had they had Davante Adams in that game last night, they probably would have won. That's where we're at right now. He improves the red zone offense. He improves their offense totally at every level. He improves the run game. Everything is better with Davante Adams. So I don't understand why there's so much negative discourse around this from national media and stuff. But sorry, I
can tell you they've lost three straight games, and like you said, it doesn't fix everything, but at the same time, it still makes them a better football team than they were when they took the field last night. And it opens so much up. I mean, Garrett's going to be open. He's going to get single coverage. Like you said, he's going to be playing more inside because that's something he's thrived in his career, dating back to his time at Ohio State. So it's just I get it. It's very Jetsian to go all in on an aging player. I get it. We're seeing that with Tyron Smith, who we'll get to in a little bit when we talk about last night's game. But it's a no-brainer move. It's a third-round pick. He has no guaranteed money for next year. Maybe they'll give him more. Maybe they'll give him another year or two, and that's fine. But if all of this doesn't work, you could just blow it up. You don't have to bring anybody back. You could literally rebuild, new coach, new GM, new quarterback, everything. So if they're going to go down, you might as well go down swinging. And that's exactly what they're doing, whether you agree with Woody Johnson's, assessment of the team or not. So it's fine. But there's no harm, no foul, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a move that had to be made. It's, it doesn't solve all their issues, but it makes their team better right now. And listen, the Jets they're at 2-4, the season's not over. Like, let's not hit. I mean, we are in panic mode. We're Jets fans. We were hoping that we'd be 4-2, 5-1, maybe 6-0 at this point. So it sucks that we're here, but in reality, like, this AFC is not insane. Like, it's very mediocre to say the least, right? So there's a path that they can carve out of this, and just because you're 2-4 doesn't mean you don't make this trade. Like, you're still in a win now window. You still have to figure out a path forward. You still have to dig yourselves out of the hole that you've gotten yourselves into. And this Davante trade makes it easier to do that. I mean, clearly, and obviously there's there's also some discourse about Mike Williams and Aaron Rodgers blaming it. Clearly this trade was like in the works last night before the game was happening, as the game was going on. So it's not in response to that. But if Aaron Rodgers has a Davante on the right sideline that he can rely on, then maybe that changes the outcome of the game. This is 2 weeks in a row now, 3 weeks in a row, really, that the Jets have had the ball in their hands with a chance to win it on the last drive of the game. And 3 weeks in a row, they've botched it. 2 in a row that they've thrown picks going to Mike Williams on. Now, I'm still a believer in Mike Williams. He and Rodgers just still have to get on the same page. But if that's Davante over there, maybe we're singing a different tune, and maybe the Jets are 4-2 right now.
Yeah. I mean, you said it really nicely, and I totally agree. I mean, look, it's super exciting. They add another piece. I mean, Mike Williams might get moved at the deadline. That's kind of the rumor out there. Our good friend Mike Florio, who just loves to talk objectively about the New York Jets, is already floating that out there. It's just hilarious. But I digress with that. But I do want to talk about last night's game, because it did happen, and I was absolutely livid. I was wine drunk, and I just did not. I just felt like another game. It was like same old from the past 3 weeks. It was just like a game they had a complete opportunity to win at the end, and they managed to squander it away yet again. And it's truly unbelievable that this team invents new ways to lose. It's like, wow, the offense finally started looking like the offense we were hoping it would be, coming into the season, with Downing calling the plays. I thought he actually did a pretty nice job outside of red zone work, which, it's his first time calling plays this season, and it's objectively much better than what we saw from Nathaniel Hackett. But that happens. They can't stop the run. Ray Davis literally looks like LaShawn McCoy in his prime. It's actually just hysterical that they just don't know how to stop him. Josh Allen was like fine yesterday. He made a couple nice plays, especially that one play when he rolled out when they were deep in their own territory to Ray Davis for like 40 yards. But again, they did a pretty good job of not allowing him to beat them too much with his legs. He just extended plays. But of course, our all-pro kicker or Pro Bowl kicker, whatever he was, decides to just turn into a complete pumpkin. And the funniest part about it, and this is to you, all those Joe Douglas, supporters, and think that he should get extended for life. You had Austin Seibert in your building all summer, and he was amazing in the preseason. And look, he's like 15 of 16 in Washington, and Washington's 4-2. So it goes to show you that this team clearly is not able to play complementary football. I don't want to get on Jeff Ulbrich. It was his first time doing this. I didn't think he was that bad, other than the fact that the run defense was non-existent in the first half. But they settled down in the second half, and the Jets had an opportunity to win the game. That's all I can really ask, especially with the offense looking better. But it's just so frustrating, and we'll get to the penalties, because that was just for both sides, not just the Jets, for the Bills too. It was just truly disgusting what I saw from the NFL officiating crew.
Yeah, a lot to unpack after last night. I was down bad as well, and it was an infuriating game, to say the least. And it just feels like through 6 games, right? When you looked at the comparison of last season to this season, and we all understand that like nothing happens in a vacuum. So every season is different. Everything changes. It's all fluid. However, when you look at it as simplistically as you can, it seemed like the Jets had a 7-10 team last year that, when you add Aaron Rodgers to it, would be infinitely better. And in a vacuum would be at least worth 4 to 5 more wins. And that's being safe. Unfortunately, what seems to have happened is you get Aaron Rodgers, and is he playing the greatest? No, but last night was a very good game. Yeah, last night was a very good game out of Aaron Rodgers. I would argue that the Minnesota game really was the only subpar performance so far. And you add Aaron Rodgers, but everything else has taken a dip. So the special teams that we've come to rely on, specifically Greg Zuerlein and Thomas Morstead, have fallen back. The defensive line is no longer a strength of the team, and they get bullied up front, and they really can't rush the passer. The tackling has completely fallen off to where when they can't stop the run, it's primarily because they can't tackle, and runners are falling forward for 5 yards at least. They don't turn the ball over. And then there's still a disciplinary mess to where, officiating aside, which, like you said, we will get into, there's still just way too many penalties, and they're undisciplined team, which is extremely frustrating because they find themselves behind the sticks way too often. Now, Aaron Rodgers covers some of that stuff up, and the offense does look better. And last night, I thought they moved the ball well, and they were up and down the field really at will. I'm not sure. I didn't look at the stats, how many punts they had, but it wasn't a ton. And if Greg Zuerlein doesn't miss 2 kicks, they probably win the game. If Tyron Smith doesn't get called for a phantom hold, they probably win the game. So there's a lot of good things here, but what you can without a doubt say is it almost feels like the Jets knew last year that they didn't have a security blanket and a quarterback, and they operated as such. And this year it's like they feel like they have that Aaron Rodgers security blanket, and everything around him has taken a step back. And that's a frustrating feeling because the defense that we thought we could rely on, you can't. And some of the big the playmakers that we thought we could rely on haven't really shown up through 6 games thus far. I think Garrett has obviously been very good, especially over the course of the last few weeks. I think Brees had a great game last night, but you still got to point to some of the things, like him trying to one-hand that catch on the first drive, him not cutting that
absurd,
him trying to cut, or him not cutting that run back against Taylor Rapp to score a touchdown. Like, those are the little things that would have absolutely happened last year and would have gone our way that just aren't going their way this year. And they got to figure it out. This team is too good. This roster is too talented for this to be a 2-4 team through 6 weeks. They really shouldn't be. And they're a stone's throw away from being 5-1, 4-2. And that's the frustrating part.
It is, and it's just the same stuff. I mean, the penalties, like, I get it. Some of them were bad, especially like the PI calls, but the holding, it's just truly like, I can't even think of the word. It's just such an abomination. And think about like the delay game. Like, they finally looked like they fixed it, and then late in the game, of course, Rodgers gets that delay game on the last drive. Like, come on, like, figure it out. It's just, and also, have you ever seen in the NFL where the replay assist picked up a flag? I've never seen that. I get it if it's like for like a catch or something or a touchdown, but for a flag? Like, are you serious? Like, what is going on in the NFL? The inconsistencies with the officiating is insane. Even the Rodgers roughing the passer call that they threw, that was a terrible call. And he admitted as such during his presser. It's unbelievable. And I can't deal with the officiating because it changes the game. It literally changes the game. I thought even Garrett's pass interference call in the last drive before the pick was also a bad call. I thought that was way over his head. I know that, like, maybe if he wasn't being held a little bit, you never know. But it's just you can't do anything about that because it's the officiating, and they always make it about them. And I can't take it anymore because it just takes the entertainment and the fun out of rooting for your favorite team, or even just watching the sport in general.
Yeah, there were so many questionable calls, and I mean, no secret, like, I live in Syracuse, so I live in central New York. This is Bills country. I'm surrounded by Bills fans, but this was a game that, had the Jets won, Bills fans would be complaining about the officiating and the reason why it didn't go in their favor. And the Jets lost, and I'm sitting here complaining about the officiating and how it didn't go in our favor. And had it gone the other way, the Jets would be looking 3-3 right now on atop the AFC. So I'm having, text threads, text conversations with a bunch of my Bills friend neighbors and friends, and Bills fans, neighbors and friends. And we're all saying the same thing, that it was just almost unwatchable. And on a larger scale, the NFL has to realize that it has an officiating problem because there were so many bad calls at this point. When you have, 11 penalties accepted on each side, right? For, I think, 110 yards and maybe a dead even 100 yards for the Bills. That's borderline unwatchable. You can't have that many flags. There's no way. Like, we can go through a name, just rattle off from last night. You said it, the Garrett Wilson flag, the Mac Hollins flag on the ball that was clearly uncatchable. It was thrown out of bounds by 6 yards. The DPI on DJ Reed that was also canceled out by a weird, Spencer Brown roughing or unnecessary roughness call. Both roughing the passer calls on Epineza and on Javon Kinlaw. The phantom holding call on Tyron Smith. Like, all of this stuff, to the naked eye, to every objective person on Twitter, on TV, wherever, they're all saying that the officiating was a joke last night. And it's a problem that goes bigger than just Jets games. Like, we obviously we're honed in on Jets games. We watch every single snap of every single game. So clearly we're going to notice it more, but way too often we're coming out of every NFL game talking about the refs when we all know that they're doing their best job when nobody's speaking of them. Like that's, if they go unnoticed, then that's the way it should be. And far too often we're just talking about these calls that are impacting the game. And it's exhausting and it's sickening because again, I look at it like despite all the struggles, everything that happened last night, if that Tyron Smith hold doesn't happen, which you can't convince me that was a hold, the Jets are up 27-20 in the fourth quarter. And I think we're winning that game. No question.
Yeah. Also, what was that stupid Javon Kinlaw call after the point after try where it was like he said something and then they gave him a personal foul? Like, what is that? Like, guys yap at the refs every single game, every week. Like, why is he the one getting the call? It's because it's the team that he plays for. It's truly unbelievable. But we can move off the officiating. I just wanted to get that off my back because
I get it. And I think you bring up a good point too, because I also like going back to the eye in the sky. Like, I don't understand. And I think if anyone is listening and can tweet it at me, like, please, like, when is it used? What's the protocol on it? I don't know if anybody really understands. Like the first game, they negated a Garrett Wilson catch on the sideline. They jumped in and said, no, it wasn't a catch. Like last night they came in, they obviously said that his touchdown was a catch. I don't know when
it was obvious.
It was absolutely a catch. Like, I don't know when they're using it, what the protocol is, when they're not using it, when they go to it. Like even on the, the tuck rule play for Aaron Rodgers on the last drive, like that was unreviewable by Sean McDermott. He was getting clarification, but the eye in the sky told him that was a incomplete pass. So like there's so much going on here. And it's just the fact that we have to spend 5 minutes talking about this on our show is ridiculous. Like we don't want to talk about the officiating, and 22 penalties in a game, a Monday night game, nationally televised for that matter, is just insane. It shouldn't happen.
Yeah. The funniest thing about the officiating, and then we can move off it, is just my entire life. It's not just this year. Like if I'm not with my dad watching a Jets game, so this is basically like college and beyond, basically when I wasn't living in my parents' house. And he always would call me about the officiating for my entire life, just screaming like an absolute maniac. He might be listening or watching later on whenever he sees this, but he knows exactly what I'm talking about because he always has been saying it. You can never beat the refs, and you can't. And we can move off it. It's so infuriating. But I do want to talk about Ulbrich because I think, it was his first game. There was definitely some things that you could tell he was nervous about. There was things that he, probably wasn't ready to handle just yet. It seems like he was adjusting to calling the defense, but also managing the entire game and operation itself. But it seemed like as the game went on, he settled down a little bit. I do want to give him a lot of credit. I think Paul Boy Green tweeted this out around the half, and he was absolutely right. Every Jets coach we've seen, probably dating back, I don't even know how far you'd go, but going to the half with like under a minute to go with 3 timeouts would just literally knee the ball and just be like, all right, whatever. And the Bills were getting the ball back. And you know what? Ulbrich was aggressive. He coached like, what do I have to lose? Like, I could be a defensive coordinator next year if this doesn't work out. And I know he couldn't predict that Aaron Rodgers was going to make probably the greatest touchdown throw in Jets history. Like, that was objectively the best play I've ever seen from, like, it, not in terms of significance, but just most impressive, most absurd thing I've ever seen. Like, have the Jets ever done a Hail Mary? I don't think so. I can't recall.
0-2 against the Bills. Actually, I remember that one. I think Marcus Coleman caught it. But yes, that's before your time, I think, as a
before my time.
I know, but you've always said like 08, 09, 010 was like when you really started grabbing on
06. 06
sorry.
is when I haven't missed a game since.
Time, yeah. But no, 02 Vinny, or maybe it was 2000. It was 2000. Vinny T threw one to Marcus Coleman against the Bills.
All right.
And
I'll give you that. I was 8 years old. I wasn't paying attention as closely, but whatever. I digress. But the point is that I like what I saw from an aggressiveness standpoint. I also just like that they were using a lot more motion, which I'm sure that was an emphasis to him with Downing, who I think, all things considered, did a pretty good job outside of red zone work, which I talked about at the top. So I think they could build off of this. I think they just got to clean up some of the penalties. They got to clean up the run defense, which I think settled down nicely in the second half. But they're probably going to be playing Russell Wilson, according to, I believe, Schefter, that he seems like he's in line to start on Sunday night. He's not as mobile as he used to be, so keep him in the pocket. Don't let him run around. And I just think that they need to be better on defense. Like, I think that the secondary, especially Ashton Davis, outside of that one tackle for a loss he had, was horrific once Chuck Clark came out. And I've had my issues with Chuck Clark this year, but he was actually playing really well. And then the second he came out, you saw them getting absolutely roasted in the back end. And I think Sauce Gardner needs to make a damn play. Like you want to be touted as the best, corner in the NFL. Well, get a damn interception. I feel like he didn't have any penalties against him, which was good. And he didn't really have a lot of balls thrown his way. So he clearly was doing his job. But at the same time, it is what it is.
Yeah, you a lot to unpack there. So Ulbrich first. Yes, you give him a ton of credit for what he did prior to the end of the first half. And I think he probably recognized, like, listen, I have, it's hard to categorize this, but the best Hail Mary thrower in the history of the game, right? At least got to save some. And he saved 21 seconds and he gave him a shot to do it. And it worked out. So credit to him for doing that, because you're right. I think every coach for the last 25, 24 years, dating back to Bill Parcells, is taking a knee on that ball and taking it into the half down 20-10. And that Hail Mary, it changed the momentum of the game, and it gave the Jets some life, and it definitely took the win out of the Bills' sails too. So it's a reason that they were in that game. The other thing that you give Jeff Ulbrich credit for is making halftime adjustments, because to your point, I think this is something that he's always done very well, where the Jets were getting run all over in the first half, and he made adjustments and he righted the ship, so to speak, in the second half. And the run defense was much better. The defense overall was much better. They only gave up 3 points in the second half. The game itself just slowed down, and they were able to do that. So I think you credit Ulbrich for those things, and I think he will get better as the season goes on and as he gets more accustomed to kind of handling the head coaching responsibilities as well as calling the defensive plays. The one thing that I will say here is on the defensive side of the ball, I think you have seen the Jets have more success when they blitz, because you just simply, the D-line is no longer a strength of this team. You can't rely on Quinnen Williams and Will McDonald to be the guys that get home. Looks like Hassan Reddick is not walking in this building anytime soon and probably never going to set foot here. So in the absence of Jermaine Johnson and JFM being traded away, like, this defensive line being a strength of your team is it's just no longer. So I think the success that you've seen the defense have when they blitz has got to start becoming more the norm. I think you get back to that kind of Rex Ryan style of, you know what, I'm going to rely on my guys in the back end to cover. I'm going to bring one more guy than I know the offensive line can protect. And I'm going to hope that that guy gets home, or at least forces the quarterback into throwing it early and making a mistake, because I think that's the way that you have to see this defense play, because right now they're not good at getting after the passer with just 4. And they're not good at creating turnovers. And that's really something that we've seen over as good as this defense was last year, like, still, I think turnovers were something that was kind of lackluster, where we just needed those game breaking kind of explosive plays, and they're just not coming. So
ball
I think
on a damn fumble. They had
Yeah.
a huge opportunity. Didn't do it.
Exactly. I mean, Josh Allen, he played a hell of a game last night, and you got to give him credit, but Josh Allen is always bound to give you 1 or 2 opportunities. And when he gives you those, you got to jump on it. And that's one where they missed. And that could have been a difference maker, because they come back and score a touchdown on that same drive, right? That's where the next play, I think he hits Dawson Knox in the left corner of the end zone. So, that's a difference maker right there if Quincy or someone can fall on that fumble. So I think those are I like the in-game adjustments from Ulbrich, but I think now you got to start seeing like season game-to-game adjustments, and he's got to start bringing the blitz more, because clearly it's not working, and you're just not getting home with 4. And it's been tough. They've played good teams that have penalized them for that.
Yep, they have. And I want to go on this, because I'm tired of seeing any sort of excuses made for this guy. Get Michael Clemens off this team. Everybody's 100%. Known for 2 years this guy is not good at football and shouldn't be on an NFL roster. The second he's cut from this team in the offseason, he will not be on the team. Maybe he'll be in their lineup in the summer. He will not be on an NFL team. He will not be playing meaningful snaps. He's horrible. And I saw people in August saying that, fans are overlooking this guy. How could they say that, he shouldn't be on the team? Every time he's given an opportunity to make a play, he never makes a play. Congratulations. You got 1 sack against the Vikings. Biggest play of the game. Who misses the tackle on Josh Allen to get off the field? Michael Clemens. And I don't care, that he's scary or whatever. He's not good. Get off this team. And honestly, he gets punked by Deion Dawkins all the time. So I can't stand this guy. He's like Kyle Wilson 2.0. He's terrible. Get him off this damn team. He is. He's horrible.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, he clearly missed Josh Allen when everyone and their mother knew that Josh was taking that run to seal the game.
When they're in the shotgun, it was the most obvious thing ever.
That was his sole responsibility, and he biffed. The other one is you have to we have to remember too, like Josh Allen ran directly into him on that touchdown to Dawson Knox in the left corner, and Michael Clemens just got run over. So you had 2 opportunities there to make game-changing plays, and you didn't. And so trading away JFM in favor of Michael Clemens potentially filling that role is one of the grossest miscalculations of the Joe Douglas era. And I don't particularly
one
think
of many.
One of very many, but that one, I think 6 games in, we're realizing the impact of this team that JFM had and how much we miss it with guys like Michael Clemens trying to fill that void. And that's just where we're at. And it's too bad because the defensive line being a strength of this team. It was just a season ago, we were talking about this being the deepest unit, and now it's maybe the weakest.
Yep.
And that's a sad reality for Jets fans. It really is.
Yeah. I don't want to do game picks and talk about Pittsburgh because we're so far out from it. We usually don't do a show this early in the week, but with how the game ended, with the Davante Adams trade, I was like, we got to do this. And it's obviously middle of the day, and typically we're at night. So maybe we'll do another show previewing the game later in the week. I was talking to Joe, and he said he would be happy to join. So maybe we'll do one on Sunday morning just to give a little preview. But any closing thoughts? I needed to rant. I needed to celebrate Davante. I'm just tired of this shit. Excuse my language.
No, that's okay. I mean, I'm down, right? I'm down bad, but I do not think the season's over. It's
not, but they have a lot of work to do.
I'll go back to 2005. They were 1-4 and then 2-5, and they came back to go 9-7 and win the division. Did I say 2005? If I did, I meant 2002, the Chad Pennington.
Yeah, 2002.
2002. Either way, you could play devil's advocate. Like, I think, okay, well, they just lost 3 games in a row, and all 3 games they had a chance to win at the end. And at some point, the tide's got to turn. At the same point, it's like, you know what? This just could keep happening for every game for the rest of the season. But I do think that they'll get it fixed. I do think they'll get it turned around. I do not think this is a 5-12, 6-11 team. I do think they're better than that. And I think they have it in them to go on a run. I think the Davante Adams trade certainly helps that out. I think they'll be a more exciting team moving forward. I think the offense will take steps forward. I like what Downing did last night. I hope that it can continue. I just hope the defensive side of the ball can get their feet back underneath them and start to be the defense that we were accustomed to in the last few years. And I hope that their big-time playmakers start making big-time plays. I think it was a step in the right direction with Brees again. He probably wants some plays back yesterday. I think Garrett, you're starting to see him really hit his stride, obviously. But Sauce is one that you rely on. And he's got to start making some game-breaking plays too. So I think good things are going to come. I hope it's just not too little too late. But let's start with a win at Pittsburgh on Sunday night. You got to take it one game at a time. You got to chop away at it. That's all you can do.
Yeah, I mean, just getting to 4-4 for the Houston game would be huge. And I think it's very realistic. Again, it's a good possibility. I think Pittsburgh's riding high after a big win, but they're, they have a good defense, but they're very injured. But you never know. And I think the Jets have had a lot of success against Pittsburgh in the past, specifically in their building. I mean, Zach Wilson beat them in 2022 in their building. And honestly, I'm tired of seeing these disingenuous call-outs on Twitter about Zach Wilson having the same amount of points through 6 games. I'm like, it's not the same thing. They were scoring on defense and special teams. He had 9 touchdowns in all of 2024. Rodgers has 9 already. So, can we stop with this? It's nonsense. Yeah. I'm surprised BYU Twitter hasn't been prevalent in my mentions again. They've always been saying that, Zach wasn't the problem. The problems with the Jets are not the quarterback right now. He could be better at times, but it's not him who's literally holding the team back. It's penalties, it's kicking, and honestly, it's the run defense. Those are the main 3 issues you can point out. And now they got another pass catcher, which should help with some of the issues they've had on offense.
Agreed. Well said.
Fired up, man. Fired up today. All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate you, whether you watch, you listen. Make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, youtube.com/@BadlandsTOJ. Make sure you subscribe to our feed. Turn on the Jets Live on Apple, Spotify, or even Amazon Podcast. Make sure you join Badlands on Patreon. It's the best premium Jets content you'll have, especially if you're in the War Room tier, which is $10 a month. It's well worth it. The Discord has been absolutely on fire today. Appreciate everybody who's in the Discord, who's watching or listening. You guys are awesome, and I love engaging with all of you. And we will definitely be talking to you guys soon, whether it's, Friday, maybe it's Sunday, but we will definitely touch on this Pittsburgh game. Appreciate everybody. We'll talk to you guys soon.